Here with Springfield's Morning News, I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. I want to review what happened last night in Glen Ellen, Illinois, where Tulsi Gabbard, who is a former Democratic Congresswoman, and actually she was also the vice chair of the Democrat National Committee in 2016 when she stepped down from that post to endorse then Democrat socialist Bernie Sanders. And that was a contentious 2016 Democratic presidential primary where ultimately Hillary Clinton advanced in that primary. But Gabbard supported the non-establishment party individual in Sanders over Clinton. Clinton got the nomination eventually. A lot of information came out about the DNC colluding with the Clinton campaign, which really isn't that ethical when you think about political parties are supposed to remain neutral in primaries, but then they go partisan, of course, in the general election. That wasn't the case in the 2016 Democratic primary. So Gabbard had that kind of bad blood already, and just recently she decided to step away from the Democratic Party, and she's been campaigning as an independent for various people, including last night in Glen Ellen, campaigning for Darren Bailey, the Republican challenging Democratic incumbent Governor J.B. Pritzker. Here's how some of that went last night.
Aloha. Wow, so nice to see all of you here tonight. Aloha. And so as all of you who are here, you're coming and lifting your voices to support Darren and Stephanie, what you do tomorrow and for the next 8 days really matters the most. Because you're going to have maybe similar conversations like that with people who say, no, I've been a Democrat my whole life. How could I vote for a Republican? You got to have a good answer to that question, and not one that says, well, Democrats are bad, Republicans are good. Speak from your heart. Focus on the right things, the most important things, which are what? What is the one thing that connects all of us in this room tonight? Yes, common sense, safety, care for our economy, but what is the one thing? We are all proud Americans, every one of us. And no matter our background, where we come from, our story, the way we worship, or what color our skin is, all of these different things, the thing that connects and binds us together is that we are all God's children. And we stand proudly together as Americans fighting for this country that we love. Somebody said, we the people. Our founders chose those first three words with great intention because they understood that throughout time, we the people would face great challenges. We would face governments overstepping their boundaries and seeking to control every part of our lives. That we would end up with people in power who would abuse that power, putting their own selfish interests ahead of the interests of the people. And so they chose those words to speak to us in a way that is timeless and compelling and powerful, just as much today as it was when they wrote those documents. We the people. We the people. I have never been more concerned about the future of this country than I am now. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm not back home in Hawaii. That's why I'm here with all of you. Because whether it's with Governor Pritzker or the radical woke agenda being pushed by Democrats in Washington, those who seek to undermine our fundamental freedoms at every opportunity, and who dangerously are using the force of law to do so, politicizing the Department of Justice and the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services. You go down the list, and these institutions that literally exist to serve the best interests of the people are unfortunately being weaponized to serve their best political interests at the expense of every single one of us. That's a dangerous place to be. That we have a government that is of, by, and for the elite. We, the people. We, the people, are the only ones that can really bring to fruition this government that our founders envisioned for us. A government truly of, by, and for the people. I did some interviews earlier today when we did our first event with Darren. They said, why are you here? What is that drew you to Darren? Darren literally embodied, he is of the people. I knew that as soon as I talked to him on the phone. I was like, this man really is just a farmer. He's a farmer who cares for his community. He cares for his people. He cares for the future for his grandkids, just like every one of you. And he's willing to put himself on the line, him and Cindy on the line, to fight for what he believes in.
So again, that's Tulsi Gabbard last night. We've got more from her, including her introducing Darren Bailey and a few words from Darren Bailey. And we'll also throw at you what Governor J.B. Pritzker had to say yesterday in anticipation of Tulsi Gabbard campaigning for Darren Bailey. So stay tuned. That's on the way here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and... All right, we're back with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk, hearing some highlights from last night's speech that Tulsi Gabbard gave for Republican State Senator Darren Bailey, who's taking on Democratic incumbent Governor J.B. Pritzker. Also on the ballot is Libertarian candidate Scott Schluter, but Gabbard supporting Bailey. Pritzker put out a statement preempting Gabbard's appearance yesterday, saying it's no surprise Darren Bailey has to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find campaign surrogates in the final days of this election. That's from the spokesperson for the Pritzker campaign. Disliked by Republicans and Democrats alike, they say, Tulsi Gabbard has repeatedly shown that her loyalties lie with foreign adversaries. Darren Bailey should answer why he's so proud to campaign with a Trump-aligned Russian apologist. And the statement also said that Gabbard's a conspiracy theorist and even alleges that she's anti-LGBTQ. But Gabbard saying that all of this is a distraction. Here she is again from last night in campaigning for Darren Bailey in Glen Ellen, Illinois. Again, Tulsi Gabbard.
Hearing a lot of the lies and the smears and all of these things that people are pushing out there, that Governor Pritzker's people are pushing out there. What this really is a way to try to distract people away from what's most important. Rather than saying, hey, you know, here's my record. He's been governor for a little while now. Here's all the things. Hey, is crime better? No. Is education better? No. Is the economy better? No. They have nothing to stand on. So they resort to lies, attacks, and smears. They did that with me. They heard I was coming to town. Lies, attacks, and smears. It's the tactic that's being used all across the country. Let that be a red flag and a warning bell anytime you hear that. When you don't hear people standing on their record or speaking about their position and what they will do for you and your family, you might want to look somewhere else. Let's get loud for your next governor, the man of the people, and his wonderful bride, Darren and Cindy Bailey, everybody.
And then
Guys,
Bailey
here's
gets
the
on
deal.
stage.
Don't let J.B. Pritzker say that I didn't warn him. Because 120 days ago, I told J.B. to start packing his bags. 8 days from now, we're firing him and he's moving out.
So again, Darren Bailey being endorsed by Tulsi Gabbard last night in Glen Ellen, and Bailey had his stump speech, and he elaborated on something he's talked about elsewhere, and he even used this story in a debate with Governor Pritzker. But Bailey talked about how his granddaughter came up into his lap and shared with him that her friend can't come to the equivalent of Girl Scouts anymore because her parents can't afford the gas back and forth from school to work and all these other extracurricular activities. And it really impacted Darren Bailey. But he shared a little bit more of that story last night, saying, here's the rest of the story, again, from last night in Glen Ellen, the Republican gubernatorial candidate, Darren Bailey.
But here's the rest of the story. As she jumped up in my arms and she said, Papa, my friend had to quit American Heritage Girls because their mom and dad can't afford the gas. She said, I told her, but it's okay because my papa's going to fix it. Listen, friends, I'm not naive to stand here and tell you that I can fix that on my own. I must have your help. We have to do this together. But when the faith of a 9-year-old tells her that, friends, we can do anything. We can fix these problems that we have in Illinois. We can restore the integrity that has been stolen from J.B. Pritzker and others. There is no sense that we should be living as we're living in fear. We must and we will repeal the Safety Act. We must and we will provide better education for our children and our grandchildren. I will fire the entire Illinois State Board of Education. We will take back our schools. Day one. Every agency head director is gone, and they will be filled with men and women with common sense and morals.
So again, Darren Bailey, final week here of campaigning. He had Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democratic Congresswoman who walked away from the Democratic Party, endorsing Bailey, and Governor J.B. Pritzker continues his campaigning across the state. He had a couple of stops yesterday. He's got one stop scheduled, at least publicly, today. With 1 week out, November 8th is the general midterm election and a lot on the ballot. So we'll keep you updated. Here with Springfield's Morning News, I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's news and